Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're all here. We're going to have I sent the agenda out the other day. So just a quick rundown. First, I want to introduce you guys to Mindy. I don't know how many of you have met Mindy Pritchard. She's been a safety consultant with us for quite some time and has just recently moved into the deputy director position. So Mindy's going to give us a little bit of an update on some OSHA stuff here in just a little bit. So we'll start with Alan. I thought that the topic of the emergency response. There's been a lot of talk about that, but not a lot of movement. And I know it does apply to quite a few of you have, smaller businesses, you have volunteer firefighters and things like that. And I know that that's been on a lot of people's minds. So we'll have Alan just talk about that just a little bit. And then again, Mindy's going to talk about some things coming out of the Wichita area office. Todd Underwood has shared some stuff with us. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we have on our website and end with the Safety and Health Conference. So, Alan, if you're ready, I'll let you go ahead and start.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Shelley. I am going to stay off camera because I had shoulder surgery on Tuesday of this week, and I'm looking pretty disheveled. Haven't been able to get a razor across my face or anything like that. So I'm going to stay off camera, but that's the reason why. The emergency response has garnered a lot of interest, especially with our smaller cities here in the state of Kansas. The initial requirements were going to really increase the amount of money that fire departments were expected to spend on equipment, PPE, those types of things. So it had generated a lot of interest from various groups, and we've been following it pretty closely. We've been working with the fire marshal's office. We've also been keeping the Shelley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris.
So we've been working with the fire marshal's office. We've been working with the governor's office, keeping them updated on any changes. Most recently, the big change that came about was the OSHA has said that they are looking at removing the term volunteer firefighters from out of the standard itself. Again, that's only being proposed right now. That's not a definite change in the standard or anything like that. So the next big part of it will be, I believe, on November, I want to say it's November 15th, there will be a hearing that will be it will be done on Teams, I believe it is, where again you can go on and voice your opinions on some of the changes, and there will be discussions as well about the new standard. So I definitely will be tuned in that morning to at least listen to what some other people have to say, because like I said, this has definitely garnered some interest in the state of Kansas, with our local fire departments as well as the fire marshal's office. So we're trying to stay on top of it as well to see what changes might be coming, if any. As most of this group knows, and sometimes you know, when you're dealing with people who are not familiar with the new OSHA regulation, how that process works, you know, they think that it's an instantaneous thing, or it's going to happen overnight or within a couple of weeks. You know, people don't understand outside of the safety realm, that, you know, this process takes a long time. So, you know, even if something got passed, it may take a few months to get it into place. So, you know, nothing is imminent, I don't think. I think it's just it has really, you know, sparked some conversation and sparked some discussion on this standard as well. You know, it's the same thing we're looking at, you know, with a new heat standard maybe coming out. You know, again, you know, who knows when we're going to see that. But in the meantime, you know, some small changes are taking place within certain companies. And we heard at the Safety and Health Conference a few weeks ago that OSHA are issuing a letter. They're not really citing the heat standard, but they are sending a letter out to those companies who they find who are quote unquote in violation, or, you know, need to be taken more precautions on the heat standard, that you know, that OSHA's letting them know, hey, you know, we don't have a standard on this yet, but, you know, when we do, you would technically be in violation. So so again, you know, it's something we're following. We're going to keep following it, and keep participating in the whole process. And again, keeping our state fire marshal up to date, as well as the governor's office, if any changes are going to happen. So that's kind of the latest on that. Like I said, the big one is the hearing that's going to be sometime, I want to say November 15th. I think that's the date, but I'm not 100% positive. But I can check on that here in a second and put it in the chat, but I believe that's when it'll be. And again, if people are, you know, welcome to listen in on it and see what comes out of that one. So, all right, with that, I am going to turn it over to Mindy.
Now you're muted, Mindy.
Now you're muted.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I became a deputy director in early September, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this group and help the sharps come along. The sharps, sorry, not, but there's plural sharp, Shelley. So excited about that. I wanted to give you just some information that I got from our Safety and Health Conference when OSHA was out. This would be repetitive for anyone who went to our conference last month, but anyway, it may be worth repeating. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everyone is seeing this screen.
I can see it fine.
Okay, perfect. So this is not really too new to a lot of people. You may have seen this already, but if you haven't, this is OSHA's top 10 list for fiscal year 2023. Again, fall protection making the list, and not surprising at all. 1/3 of the fatalities that have occurred from falls have been from ladders. So anything you can do to have a more robust ladder safety program would be good. And there's also, NIOSH has a ladder safety app that we recently downloaded here in our office. It's a pretty cool app that you can all look into. HAZCOM, of course, making number 2. It's always in the top 10. PIVs, lockout, tagout, respiratory protection, PPE, and machine guarding. I just wanted to throw that up there. The OSHA penalty level structure changed, and it's just always mind-boggling to see these numbers go up, but a serious and other than serious requirement is now 16,131. The willful or repeat is 161,323. And then failure to abate per day is the 16,131. So you guys may have not known those went up. Alan mentioned this. There are several NEPs, but these two kind of stick out in most of the SHARP programs that we have, the HEAT and FALLS. This HEAT NEP, National Emphasis Program, was launched in April of 2022. And like Alan said, Kansas so far has not issued any citations. They're rather sending companies a letter kind of telling them what they need to do, and also letting them know that they could be subject to an on-site inspection at any time to see if those elements from the letter get implemented into their facility. And let's see, FALLS, again, not to get into a lot of detail on that, I just wanted you guys to see that. The HEAT rulemaking stage is in stage 3. Stage 1 is conducting the preliminary rulemaking activity. Developing the proposed rule is stage 2. Stage 3 is publishing the proposed rule. I don't know why I can't say that word, but just know that there's a comment period right now. You've probably seen that from if you're all subscribed to OSHA Quick Takes newsletters, you can see that there's a period where you can all send in your comments. I might have said that wrong, a comment period for you to submit any comments you have and how it may impact your industry. I thought this was a neat slide that they had put up, these proposed heat triggers. I hadn't seen it listed out this way, but the initial heat trigger is a heat index of 80 degrees or a wet bulb globe temperature equal to the NIOSH recommended alert limit. And then the high heat trigger is 90 degrees. You'll see this chart where the green dots mean that it covers all employers under the scope of their proposed rule. And then the blue dots get added in if you're at or above that initial heat trigger that I mentioned at 80 degrees. And then all of the bullet points on the right would have to be implemented if it's over 90 degrees. A lot of you may know about this heat safety tool app that NIOSH put out. I recently learned a couple weeks ago that there's another app from the AIHA, the American Industrial Hygiene Association, has an app as well. I really like either one of these tools, and I recommend that if you don't have them on your phone, to download it. The National Emphasis Program that are impacting, sorry about that, our area are still pretty much the same, which is amputations, hexchrome, combustible dust, lead, trenching, PSM, primary metals, silica, heat, falls, and warehousing. FYI, fiscal year 2025 safety and health campaigns include these, just for your notes. Stand Up for Grain Safety, most of you probably already know, March of 2025. Heat Illness Prevention Campaign, May of 2025, fall, May. And then they're really trying to get more people to participate in these campaigns with your employees. They've got a lot of good information out on their website and some kits that you can go on and get on their website for any of these that you want to participate in with your employees. Okay, next, I wanted to let everyone know, and you may already know this, that we get copies of all of OSHA's citations in the state of Kansas, and I read them all because I just kind of want to see what the pulse is and what they're looking at the current time. These to me struck out as some interesting ones, and I'll kind of explain that. Of course, I mentioned that HAZCOM was the second most cited standard in the country, and here's 2 HAZCOM citations that were unique. Employers not provided effective training under 1910-1200 H1, but it was employees engaged in material handling activities utilizing forklifts were exposed to health hazards, and that they were not provided any training as it relates to the hazards associated with replacing propane tanks on the forklifts. That's new on me. And I can tell you that OSHA is citing propane tanks left and right, storing them properly. If they're laying on their side, if they're just on the floor in a corner and they look like they're secured just from location, if they don't have the chain on them, they're writing that up. So now they're hitting it on HAZCOM. The next one on HAZCOM has to do with labeling under 1200 F6II. This is the first time I've seen OSHA do this on labeling. Usually we tell companies they can take a Sharpie and write, simple green on the secondary container. Well, this company got cited for having 2 secondary containers of simple green that didn't also say eye irritation on it. So that is a unique one. You may want to look at your labeling and make sure you have these additional hazard pictogram type warnings that we all learned about years ago. Here's another one on propane containers under 110 F6II. There were several propane containers that were half full, found laying on the ground in direct sunlight in front of an unlocked propane storage rack, unsecured with the door open, 2 feet from the normal path of travel of forklifts where they could be tampered with. So that one was, again, I've seen more propane tank citations than normal. This one was also unique. I haven't seen OSHA use the personal protective equipment citations, this standard this way, 1910-132 D2, where you have to have a hazard assessment performed. Well, this one to me makes it sound like they wrote this company up for not completing a JSA, and they used this standard. Employees were engaged in pallet manufacturing operations, and the activities where the workers were exposed to struck by, laceration, and amputation hazards because the employer did not verify through a written certification that a hazard assessment had been performed, where employees were working near pallet stacks that reached 16 to 7 feet high in height, and they were working around machinery that could cause lacerations and amputations. So I don't really understand how that standard has to do with pallet stacks. And I mean, maybe that they need to have a hard hat on. But to me, one thing that we've been seeing is OSHA asking a lot more about job safety analysis, job hazard assessment. So I feel like they might start trying to use this standard to cite that, because there currently isn't one. Lockout tagout. This one is under the lockout tagout standard. A written lockout tagout program had not been developed and implemented for employees performing electrical work on hardwired equipment such as light fixtures, receptacle outlets, and electrical switches. I don't normally see that on the visits that we go to. I'm normally not looking for that. So look at this one at your facility too. The next one has to do with material stacking and storage. Employees were exposed to struck by hazards from that same stack of pallets that I mentioned, where there were employees in the walkways and forklifts were in the path, and these pallet stacks were nested on uneven ground and leaning at an angle, increasing the risk of collapse. So check out your pallet storage and make sure that looks good. Couple more here. Chrome 6, we don't see a lot of hex chrome. If you're welding, this employer chose to use the scheduled monitoring option, but had not performed the initial monitoring for hex chrome. So no initial monitoring was conducted to determine the employee's exposure to hex chrome. We always talk to employers about Appendix D on respirator standard. This next one, 1910-134C2, I have not seen Appendix D written up for years. At this shop, employees performing grinding activities while voluntarily wearing a respirator were exposed to hazards. The employer did not determine if the voluntary use of a respirator created a hazard before the employee began to use it in the workplace. So that one, you just want to look at your voluntary respirator usage. And this one is the last one, 1910-95 on Hearing Conservation Program, 1910-95C1. This is unique, and I'll explain after I say. Okay, employees who worked in the truck wash bays cleaned trucks with scrubbers and high pressure water. The employees were exposed to continuous noise levels. A lot of companies that I'm helping do have pressure wash bays, and it's an oversight on my part that I have not been asking about hearing protection in those areas. But recently, last year, OSHA wrote a car wash up in Overland Park area, and they got a hefty noise citation for the frontline people that are standing outside the front of the tunnel cleaning off cars because they were over the 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 decibels. So anyway, that's just some unique citations I wanted to share with you all so you could look in your own factories and workplaces. Lord, Shelley, I can turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mindy. That was awesome. We don't, with our Sharp companies, as we're working with you guys, way back in the day, trying to get you up to that Sharp certification level, that's one of the things that we always do on every initial visit is talk about what the current citations are and things like that. And frankly, we don't talk about that a whole lot when we go in to do Sharp renewals. We just kind of assume that you guys are keeping up on it. So I do appreciate Mindy taking the time to share all those with us. And if anybody has any questions or if you want a copy of anything like that, just let me know after the meeting and we can certainly get something for you. So again, Mindy, thank you for taking the time to put that together. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Good deal. All right. So the next thing I just want to touch on, I think we talked about this maybe in our very first quarterly meeting a while back earlier this year. Our communications people have been working with us to promote our program and do some things. And I think that I told you guys that we have a section on our website where you can go in and you can search by county, or you could a map comes up and it shows how many Sharp companies are in that county, and you can click on that and it'll give you more information. That's when you go to the website dol.ks.gov and go into industrial safety and health and then click on the Sharp button, you'll see where it prompts you to view a map. And so that has probably, it hasn't been updated recently. We're in the process of getting that updated, but it's just kind of some interesting information, see who's kind of located where and what companies are in what counties and how many we have. I think the current website shows 149 active Sharp companies. We're actually at 151 today. So it's, again, it hasn't been updated here recently, but we're getting into that here soon, I hope. So just wanted to remind you about that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about again is the Safety and Health Conference. We had our annual Safety and Health Conference 3 weeks ago in Wichita. Saw a lot of you there, and I'm glad that a lot of you were able to come. We talk about this, I think, every time we do this meeting, and we're just not getting a lot of participation out of our Sharp companies in our Safety and Health Conference. Next year is going to be the 75th anniversary of our annual Safety and Health Conference, and it's a pretty big milestone. It's going to be in Manhattan next year, and we're really looking for a lot of Sharp participation. Like I said, I see a lot of the same individuals at the conference every year, and I greatly appreciate everybody that does come out. And so I'm wondering, why we're not seeing more participation. I know in some cases it's just the wrong time of year. In some cases there are other conferences. I know the workers' conference is pretty close to the same time. But I guess I'd like to know what it would take to get everybody there. What could we do to make it more worth your while, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. So what I'm proposing today is just put a little bit of thought into it. And if you come up with anything that you think might be worthwhile, you can just email it directly to me. It doesn't have to be part of the group, or you can include the entire group as well. It's however you want to do it. But I'm just asking for a little bit of help here, and I would appreciate it if everybody would just take a little time, think about, okay, this is why I can't, or this is what I would like to see, or whatever. So anyway, I would like to just close with that today. Let you guys know that we're here. If anybody needs anything, you can see we have Alan, we have Mindy on board. I'm part of I'm the consultation program manager. I'm still doing all the Sharp stuff. And we have all of our consultants. We have a great wealth of knowledge within our group, like Mindy was saying. And if anybody needs anything, if you guys would just let us know, we would appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to let you get back to your day. I hope everybody has a good rest of your week, and we will be letting you know pretty soon when our next meeting is. So thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good day.